AI is a great tool, but it is there to assist us.
But my perspective is that AI is a property of systems, right? It's not a goal in itself. If it starts to become a goal in itself, that's dangerous.
And really start to have a conversation. Hey, what does this mean for your company?
I think that Randstad took AI readiness to the next level. How was that initiated? What a time to be alive.
So it's going to be fun.
Okay, I admire that spirit. Hello and welcome to the Software Improvement Group podcast on AI readiness with a very special guest today from Randstad, the world's largest talent company. Would you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely, and thanks for inviting me, Rob. I'm Wouter-Bas van der Vegt. I'm the Global Data Protection Officer within Randstad. Also heavily involved in all the AI readiness we are doing at the company. Together with my colleagues in the legal and IT departments and the business departments. And looking forward to have a great conversation with you on responsible AI and responsible use of AI.
Yes, we've known each other for quite a while, from the field, so to speak, and our paths crossed several times. And recently our paths crossed because we got to talk about AI readiness. And I was super impressed about how far Randstad is with implementing AI readiness. And I wanted to know more because at that moment I was working from Software Improvement Group on the AI readiness guide. And we were busy with similar things at that time. So which is why I'm super excited to have you and to learn more about the hands-on experience of Randstad. And today we're going to go through that using the readiness guide 19 steps from step 1 to 19 to see with what elements that guide resonates and what you can share with the listeners on the lessons you've learned. But maybe first about Randstad. What can you tell us about the size of it? Because I was overwhelmed by hearing these numbers.
Yeah, so maybe to start, Randstad, our ambition is to be the partner for talent, both for our candidates, so people that are looking for jobs, and on the other hand, also helping our clients to find the right talent for the challenges they have. And we are very big. We are the biggest HR service provider in the world. We are operating in 39 countries. And we tend to put about 500 to 600,000 people to work every day. So that's huge numbers.
Yeah.
And there you see also where the real benefit of using technology is coming into play. How can we use technology even better, even faster? Yeah, it's from the past. It used to be a very manual approach. And it has grown, and the reason we are ahead of the game in a lot of things we are doing in AI is because we already looked at AI in the early stages. How does it work? Where can we benefit from it? More in the traditional machine learning, statistical thinking kind of things. And now we are really looking into how can we use also Gen AI for certain purposes. Within the right boundaries, of course, and how can we use machine learning, etc. So you would see use cases like search and match, which is quite obvious because that's majority of what we do. Find candidates for certain jobs. How do you match that? Do you have like a consultant doing it or a group of consultants, or can you also use technology? In the past, we already used technology more kind of in Boolean search, really looking on. But now let's see how we can use like AI machine learning to find, for example, vectors. A pipe fitter, is that the same as a plumber? Can you do the same kind of things? Those kind of combinations. So that's
to do the matching.
But also looking at how do you write job descriptions, which is a lot of manual work, a lot of guidance and training we give to people. Can you actually provide that guidance and feedback also to an algorithm and help creating the first draft and then have it validated and used for future jobs? And definitely if it's skills-based, there is a lot of opportunity there to win in speed and efficiency.
Yeah, amazing. And I think your story resonates with the audience because every organization has an HR component, right? So every organization is dealing with job description, with people, with providing them with, the opportunities that they deserve in a fair way, right? Which brings us to, apart from the opportunities, also the risks, which, as you said, you've been dealing with AI for a long while, even before Gen AI, also using text-based AI.
Yeah. So if you look at it, this is a journey started ages ago. AI is much older than many people think. Everybody is now talking about a Gen AI, but that's just the last 2-3 years that is coming up. Before there, AI was already there. But what we did in the past is we started already in 2019, for example, publishing our first version of the AI principles we had within Randstad. Really making clear what we think about transparency, about human oversight, explainability, making sure it's compliant with all the laws and regulations, the accountability, all those, and that it also should be a benefit for all parties involved. Those kind of things we already set up in 2019. Now with the upcoming of Gen AI, which really sped up a lot of developments. It's kind of a democratization, difficult word, of AI. You see that more emphasis even needs to be on those kind of base rules. So we improved our principles this year. We republished the new ones. And based on that, we have now also, on top of what we already had in our policy framework with all the rules we had about security, the rules we had on our business compliant behavior, rules we had on data protection, we also created now our own AI policy on top of that. But I think it starts with the ground rules, those principles. And if you look at those, they are quite agnostic. They will fly everywhere around the world. And they're very focused on AI is a great tool, but it is there to assist us. It's not there to replace people. It is there to help people, help business, help people to improve what they already did and make it more efficient and more effective.
The AI principles, are they published?
They're fully available for everyone.
I'll make sure they are in the show notes. I'm sure that people will find them interesting. Is there one principle that is dear to your heart or you would like to share that stands out?
For me, of course, compliance with data protection is as data protection officer. But I think actually I think the most important one, to be completely honest, is for me the human oversight, personally. I think really, and human oversight is quite a broad term. So that can be human oversight by people in the development process, in the actual deployment process, but also in the end when the algorithm is deployed, how do you make sure that people really themselves know what's happening? So it links very nicely to the whole transparency thing, because there is also a role of people themselves, but also towards the whole process you build around making sure your algorithm doesn't go off. You can test for fairness, that the algorithm is not biased, all those kind of things. For me, the human oversight is kind of the overarching element that brings it all together, of course, with the accountability principle on the other hand.
Yes.
It's never the computer in the end that is owning the decision and is responsible. It's the company.
I totally agree. And this is getting a lot of discussion lately also around agentic AI, where human oversight is by definition minimized, of course, for reasons of efficiency. I think one of the challenges there is that human oversight, you can implemented by policy. But what are your thoughts on making sure that actually happens? Because there's review and there's review. So how do you inspire people to do the right checks?
So this is super complex. It has always been complex. Also in other, I'm here in a room with all kind of books about testing and code reviews, etc. We all know that testing of software has been always like the last part of the process, and everybody is kind of ignoring it sometimes if everything comes under pressure. That's the risk with these things as well. So a lot about reiteration of the process and making sure people understand this is what you need to do. We have built it into our processes we had already in place. So we actually build on top what we do for security, for privacy. We have built on third-party risk management. We actually build whole AI checks and balances into that process. So it's not something new. In line also with your guides you have written there. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Make it part of an existing process. So I think that's an important one. And there is a lot about literacy there as well. It's constantly conveying the message to people. Why is this important? Why do you need to do this? What would you feel if something would happen like this with your data, in your case, make it also personal to people. So those kind of conversations we constantly have. And it's a challenge also in a cultural. Like I said, we work in 39 different countries. If you look at European culture is different than the culture in APAC towards use of technology than the culture in US and the Americas using this kind of technology. How do you bring that together? And that's why we brought it really together in those principles.
Yeah.
Because those are, and they are really also related to our business principles and our core values, to make sure people understand this is not only a legal thing, this is really an ethical thing and responsibility of all of us in the company. And like you said, it is not black and white, but you need to have the conversation about these things, really understand. And like I said, many of these terms are very holistic.
Yeah.
And you need to have the constant conversation. And that's why we, for example, also improve now our principles this year because of this learning. And this is why we are going to probably update all this stuff the coming years as well, because this field is in real development and people need to understand what does it really mean.
You mentioned, Wouter-Bas, human oversight from your perspective of, also data protection compliance. You're a global data protection officer.
Yeah.
And you started by talking about the many opportunities that AI has apart from compliance. So you are sort of innovation oriented, which is not per se the case for every data protection officer. So what I see in organizations is that because of its focus on individual, fundamental rights and safety and health, similar to privacy legislation, some of the responsibilities around AI are assigned to data protection officers. And I'm interested in your view on what I tend to see as a risk there, because if you assign it to somebody who is accustomed and keen on thinking about things that can go wrong, right? And from that perspective, identify the risks, which is, of course, a very important task. But you want that person, if this person is, implementing AI policies and guidelines, also to have an innovation-oriented approach. How can organizations make sure that if they involve a typical data protection officer, that also that innovation perspective is included?
Yeah, so maybe to set the scene and make it clear. So my focus is on the data protection part of AI. I'm working closely with part of the legal team that is actually the responsible AI team with a responsible AI officer.
Yeah.
And next to that, we have in the IT and business field, we have our strategic AI responsible people that are really focusing on how do we enable this in our operations. So you can see us more as help to protect the company, and the other part of the business really looking at how can it really add value to the business and to our clients, both being talent and commercial clients.
Yes.
I think and that's how I always did my work. As a data protection officer, you need to have a certain understanding of your business processes. If you don't have the understanding of what you are doing in your operation and only are the ministry of no, let's put it that way, actually people will bypass you. Because in the end, I can flag risks, but if I don't help thinking about, hey, what are potential mitigations to those risks? Think about how can we benefit from these things? There is kind of like a balancing you need to do. But if I only flag risks, in the end, I'm not the decision maker on what we do or not. And then the company might do things that are not the wisest things to do. So it's better to really support the business in understanding, hey, these are the risks. These are the options to mitigate risk. And these are the red lines you should not cross.
Yes.
Because there are always red lines. And I think from that end, the AI Act is also a great example with their 6 prohibited uses of AI.
Yes.
I think that's a clear where you put like the red lines. I think still the debate of what do those 6 exactly mean, that's something to be found out currently. But essentially, those 6 are very clear and helpful in setting the boundaries. That's the kind of thing. But then you come into more the high risk area, which a lot of employment and skilling and recruitment is flagged as high risk in the AI Act. And that's where you need to have the proper conversation. Hey, what are the risks involved? Is there a risk of discrimination using a certain type of, and what can you do to mitigate or manage that risk?
Yes. Yeah, so I hear you say that by teaming the data protection office with people involved in innovation and working together on setting clear guidelines, including guidelines on how to innovate, and being sort of open to conversations instead of saying no to everything, with the exception of things that just simply are prohibited. So then you need to be really clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the risk is going to be, and we have seen that with GDPR as well. We learned from that, but seen it. If you look at the regulations, it's risk-based, which is something to look at. But if you look at how it is enforced, there it's interesting to see where does it go. Is it really risk-based, or do we get fundamental discussions on some topics that actually should be risk-based discussions?
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting times the coming years to see how enforcement will be done in all the different jurisdictions where these laws are coming. In Europe, US, Canada, Brazil, India, Singapore, with all their different cultural backgrounds, they will all have different.
What a time to be alive.
So it's going to be fun.
Okay, I admire that spirit, and it's complex and it's fast moving. You said that you were listening to podcast this morning in your car. I'm trying to do the same to keep up to date with everything that is moving. It's super hard, but fun and exciting. So you mentioned risk-based approach. I'm currently working on the security standard for the AI Act, where all products need to comply with, and we need to include security risk assessment as well. And what struck me was that the perspective is different from what organizations typically have, right? Because you have to include the individual's safety, health, and fundamental rights into the equation, which in many organizations is part of the equation, but mostly from a sort of a legal and liability and reputation perspective, and not let's care for the world perspective, because you're a business, and in Europe we tend to sort of compensate that with regulation, and I think rightfully so. So organizations really need to focus on change the scope of their typical risk assessment to include those aspects. I'd love to dive into that later, because I have a million questions, and I'd like to go through my questions.
Yeah, you have the 19 steps, of course.
We have the 19 steps, indeed, the 19 steps of our little AI readiness guide that we wrote here within SIG. It's free. We'll add it in the show notes. It wants to provide pragmatic and actionable advice, like you stated. Make things part of everything that you already have, instead of building something in isolation, which is really a pitfall. And also, we believe it's important. Organizations are embarking on this journey. There is some guidance, but it's not all super pragmatic. There is the 42001, but it has its blind spots. So how can you make things easy? That's what we wrote this guide for. And why did we wrote it? Well, we have a lot of experience in working with clients on AI. We wrote a framework on AI engineering, which has become part of ISO 5338. And we're also working, as I said, on the AI security standard for the AI Act. So we have some ideas and some experience there. And the first step is board AI readiness. Attain a basic understanding of AI in the board. And of course, the goal is to secure buy-in for everything that you're going to do, because you need new roles, you need new tasks. Things require investment.
Yep.
And you want to prepare the board for making informed decisions about things. Where do we draw the line when it comes to responsible AI? So I think that Randstad took AI readiness to the next level. How was that initiated, and how was upper management involved?
So like I said, we started already with AI principles in 2019. Actually 2018 when we written them, and then published 2019. Mm-hmm. And that was already based on some board decisions on to expedite further. How can we use this kind of technology to improve our roles towards our candidates and our clients? These kind of principles are always approved by the board. So the board needs to understand what they approve. So we had several presentations during that time, but constantly since then on these kind of developments. Also when Gen AI really popped up, ChatGPT really became a thing. We were already seeing it quite early we already started discussing, hey, what are the Gen AI do's and don'ts? Because it's different than traditional AI. So we created Gen AI do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
Also have them explain to the board, have the board also have a pivoting role in explaining that to from their leadership position. And then based on that, we also started, hey, now we need to move into with the AI Act and other laws coming into setting up some more things. Next to that, we already had since quite a long time a data and AI ethics board where some parts of leadership were involved that I have in active interaction with AI, where we also put in like these kind of conversations on risk, ethical use, etc. And we have now also included reporting on AI readiness into our reporting on data protection and information security towards the board. And we have next to that an AI steerco where also some leadership people are some leaders of us are involved, where we also include that.
So you're actually blessed by an organization that had AI, as a high priority already strategically.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who don't have that luxury? Let's say a peer of you in another organization that wants to create some awareness with the executives in a company and make sure that there's management buy-in for AI readiness.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a bit of a missionary work. You need to go talk to people, explain to them. I think many of the leaders nowadays want to see how can they use technology more effective. I think
you can start there.
And really start to have a conversation. Hey, what does this mean for your company? And talk about what the business benefits are. Don't start with scaremongering. I think that's a mistake many people start with. Hey, the AI Act is coming, and now you go to pay hefty fines. It's part of the conversation. You need to be transparent about it, but it's also about what does it bring. It's really a opportunity to speed up the use of technology to improve your business.
Yeah.
With risks associated, and you need to have that balanced discussion. And I think it's talking to the boards, explaining to your boards about what does it mean, how can you benefit, and what can go wrong if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it feels a bit like GDPR, but more exciting because GDPR was more about no.
I agree. Yeah, the same goes for security.
And this is also security and privacy are of course more like safeguards, assurance, and this is business opportunity, but in a responsible manner. And I think this is a more exciting conversation to have than the GDPR security conversation.
Yes, and before people in the comments start to say that security and privacy are business enablers, which they are,
of course.
But AI goes a big step further. And so that's where you can start the conversation to create awareness for this. And then you can start to talk about accountability and things to take into account. But things need to be done. You need to know, you need to prevent shadow AI. You need to make sure that you know what type of AI is used and how you can make that better and join forces instead of let everybody just figure it out by themselves.
Yeah, I think almost 2 years ago now, for example, we organized with a big group of people that were interested, including board members, but also a lot of other local management, etc. Sessions on, it was a 1 week virtual AI week where we really organized having external parties coming in, telling about how they use AI, providers, how AI can be used, but also spend part on what are the risks to AI, what kind of compliance regulations are coming, and how can you, and really had like 1 week, and I think it was about 400 people that participated in it globally.
Because they're interested.
They are interested. Yeah. They all see the opportunity. Now with Gen AI, everybody wants to use AI. I think that's the other challenge. AI washing, see some companies say AI is in everything, which is also not true, but total other conversation not to have here.
Yeah.
But in that end, it's creating that balance and really have that conversation.
I like the idea of creating this event also because it instills a certain buzz, right? And it inspires. All right, step 1, very interesting. Step 2, assign roles and responsibility. How have you guys done that at Randstad? Did you put specific people in charge of certain parts of AI, or did you assign it to the existing GRC officers, or what's?
So let's say, first of all, we have already a stable state for responsibility on security and data protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is a moving setup. So what we have now said is, hey, based on how we set it up for security and privacy, let's build on that. So what you see, and we are a hybrid organization. We are really trying to be, we have like a global company indeed, but we also have a lot of local responsibility because that's where the actual business happens.
Yeah.
And how to find that balance between the two. Because what works in one market and in a certain culture doesn't work maybe in the other. So that's how to find. So what you see is we have set up a global governance in our policy, but we are now also, and like I said, our policy has just been approved and is going live. And we are now rolling out that policy already locally. What you see is already kind of people that took the role there. You see CIOs taking responsibilities. You see that in the legal and data protection field and in the security field, people are already taking their ownership. And that's where we also see it sitting going forward. But it is an evolving landscape at this moment.
They regard it as their duty of care?
Yes.
Is that automatic, or did you need to do anything to achieve that?
Now, I think for many of them it's automatic because it's how they live their life and think as a professional about these kind of things. I think the challenge there is how do we educate them? Because it is something new. If you are a security or privacy expert, you don't know per se everything about AI.
Yeah.
I think luckily with the GDPR, where we already had the provision about automatic decision making, many of the data protection officers know about, hey, there is a certain level where I need to step in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you see that people really want to learn on that part. That's also where we are investing currently in training all those people. But it's not like we have said this locally, these are the roles that need to be appointed to this group. We have said these are the roles we need to have in each entity.
Yeah.
But you need to find out, based on your setup, what is the best way to set up the roles. It's also not like with the GDPR where it's very clearly described what is the responsibility of a data protection officer. So for that part, we really have a very clear charter also, setting the responsibilities of a data protection officer. With AI, that is less clear. The AI Act, for example, doesn't say explicitly what is a responsible AI officer responsible of, and what is the real deviation of or separation of terms and responsibilities.
Which is, from one perspective, unfortunate, but I actually like it because with every organization it's different, and also the how you implement this role, you can do it completely wrong way. There is a clause in the Biden executive order about this that says every organization should have a chief AI officer. If you read it carefully, it doesn't say this person is responsible for everything AI, but it's interpreted that way. So you see many organizations assigning everything AI to one person, but my perspective is that AI is a property of systems, right? It's not a goal in itself. If it starts to become a goal in itself, that's dangerous in the sense that you'll be you'll be pursuing AI instead of business value and then seeing how AI can benefit. So yeah, I can understand the purpose of a responsible AI officer because that person brings in that perspective. But I would advise against making somebody chief of AI and have the final say in how you apply AI and not, because in the end that's the people responsible for the business working with the people in compliance and risk. Does this resonate with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, absolutely. I think it's in the end it's the responsibility of everyone. It's like with security, it's like with data protection, it's like with software, creating good software. If you create great software, but then people are using it wrong, also it doesn't add value.
Exactly.
And that's the problem with many of these legal constructs. And that's one of the challenges I see with data protection officers now happening as well. Some people are really getting into their into the trenches, and you get these people that are saying only no.
You mean regarding privacy, but also regarding AI?
That's going to happen there as well. People, this is the challenge. What's the balance? How do you do a risk-based approach?
Yeah.
You cannot just stop everything, because then you're actually also not operating in line with the benefits for your stakeholders. Candidates want to get their best opportunities, find the best jobs, and they want to get it soon. If we send in their CV, they rather have within 5 minutes a new job proposed than wait a week.
Wait for people.
And this is a challenge. If you have people to do it, it's costing a lot of time. If you have like a system with human oversight to make it faster and better, then people feel much more better serviced.
So we need to be conscious of time. We're nearing the end of part 1. We will record a second podcast continuing with using the readiness guide to learn how Randstad is doing things. I'd like to thank you for coming. It was great to have you on the show, and looking forward to the next one.
Looking forward to the next one as well.
Cheers.
Cheers.